back on the East Coast. There might be soon more tears from Maine's Democratic Senator Graham Plattner, who is now embroiled in yet another scandal. The far-left Senate candidate who once claimed his Nazi tattoo was a mistake and he had no idea what it meant just got caught in a now-deleted social media post admiring the cool German helmets of Nazi-allied soldiers in World War II. We did reach out to his campaign for comment on the new revelation. I don't know. They haven't got back to us. It seems like someone with a deep appreciation for World War II and history would understand the significance of an SS tattoo. Now, meanwhile, after getting caught, well, bragging about cocaine use while on leave during his time in the Marines, along with, of course, the news about a sketchy, shirtless social media profile on this very sketchy website, a stated love of pleasuring himself in porta potties. Well, Graham Plattner still has his defenders all over the Democratic Party. In fact, crazy Bernie Sanders is not worried at all about his character, just if he's devoted to socialism, statism, communism. Take a look.
Are you worried about anything else coming out about him?
I don't know. All I can say is, look, I'm sure he's not a saint. And by the way, let's not forget, he has acknowledged this guy served 4 tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. He went through some very bloody and horrible situations. I just think, and by the way, I've met his wife, Amy, who is a very lovely young woman. She is standing by her husband. And I think it's better for this country that we start focusing on the enormous crises facing working people, a corrupt political system, than spending so much time worrying about, the personal life of an individual.
Now that he's an avowed communist, how could Bernie be against him? President Trump, he had a very different take. Take a look.
Now, the Democrats have got a huge problem. Graham Plattner in Maine is one example, that terrible Senate candidate.
Well, he's a major sleazebag. I mean, you look at him.
Yeah.
Can't imagine that and yet he's up in the polls against Susan Collins. But she's always down in the polls, and, she survives. But
they have James Tallarico in Texas. They have
I think
Tim
he's one of the
Walz.
worst candidates. Actually, I think Tallarico is worse. You want to know the two of them? I think Tallarico's probably worse.
Now, tonight, there are very real fears that Plattner, Tallarico, other radical Democrats are now running the party's, apparatus from top to bottom, and nobody dare take them on, and that they are really in control of the party at this point. Here with more, Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman, perhaps the only Democrat with common sense. I mean, I don't know where you want to start, Senator. We can start with the Nazi tattoo. Nobody seemed to care. Now we have the helmet that he praised. Then, of course, his comments blaming sexual assault victims. Then, of course, calling all cops bastards. Then, of course, being on this crazy website. Where would you like to start, Senator?
The one good thing you can say about the guy is that he has so many offensive things that it's hard to keep up with it. And now, that American hero that was under fire by the Taliban and calls him a dumb MFer that doesn't deserve to live. And he described, our army as absolute trash in those kinds of terms. But now here, months ago, he promised everyone, there won't be any more scandals. There's a Nazi tattoo. There won't be anything more. And now here you have it has nothing to do about his marriage, but what he decided to do for the last decade, he was on kick. And that was a very specific kind of a website that if anyone could just look up, you can describe that's a serious issue that has a lot of young people. They have very, very a lot of safeguards, and people are unable to know, what their age are. There's no kinds of verification. So he's been on it for a decade, and up into this Monday, he had an active account, and now he was dropping inappropriate kinds of texts and messages and pics and all these things. So here we are right now. Now, we have some really great candidates as Democrats, whether in Texas or in Ohio, in Georgia, or in Alaska or in Iowa. But very specifically right now, here we are. And for me as a Democrat, I'm never going to carry water for a guy that calls, an American hero a dumb MFer, or someone that, smears Chris Kyle, the American sniper, and claim that he's shooting innocent civilians. You've literally lost count. And he also called rural Americans as racist and stupid. It's countless. It absolutely is. This is a guy that had a problem with me, how I dress, but he seemed to have no problem posing in a towel at a disgusting website that consistently has serious problems about that kinds of depravity.
I happen to like your hoodies. I think it's your signature.
Thank you, Sean.
You got to keep it.
Yeah. Well, here, let me make a deal. I'll tell P. Hustle I'll wear a suit every day if he releases all those texts and messages that he's had for the dozen women. And you can prove America what's these conversations. Can P. Hustle prove how old these people are? Who was he really talking? Were they underage? What were these conversations doing that? And why would you do that as a married guy and doing that? They've been doing that for a decade. Where's the rest of the media to investigate that? Say, like GP Hustle, did you have a protocol to make sure that they're, over 18? Do we know here really is a trafficking situation? Who are we really talking about? So release it. If you've got nothing to hide, release it. And that's nothing to do about his marriage.
I got to tell you, Senator, I don't even know if your fellow Democrats know that this is election year. Elon University came out with a poll, and only 18% of Democrats, only 18, said that they were proud of our country. Only 17% felt grateful that they are living in America. My understanding is that Graham Plattner met with the Democratic caucus, and out of it, Chuck Schumer supporting him, Kirsten Gillibrand supporting him, Chris Murphy supporting him. They're all going on record. Do they not know that they're going to be who they're associating with? I think they know. I'm sure they're going to try and persuade him after the primary in that little short window of time to withdraw himself from the race so they can select a candidate. But I'm not sure he's going to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm insanely proud to be an American. The best country in the world by far in all-time history. How, as a Democrat, only 18% can feel that way? Well, maybe that I'm alone. But it's strange if you're proud or you're excited to vote for someone like P. Hustle there. And I'm not a Maine voter, and I don't really have a dog in that fight specifically. But here we are. I will be a Democrat. Isn't our job to police our own ranks? And now, can't we describe that we have someone that is behaved and has engaged in kinds of and said outrageous thing? Now, this is not an outrageous thing as to say a guy that has a Nazi tattoo clearly has some Nazi sympathizing, and now here countless kinds of things. So here we are. That's a choice that we have to make. But I think each party that's we're required to police side, and I'm very proud of our candidates across the map for the Senate. But in this case, it's a much different situation, and that's someone that I'm never going to carry water for that mess.
Sometimes I have felt in the past when I've asked you this question, it's an unfair question. I don't think it's unfair in light of Graham Plattner, James Tallarico, the fact that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries won't show any moral clarity either on Israel or Plattner or any of these people. But if you look at who's leading the party now, this is now the face of the Democratic Party. These are your candidates, Tallarico, 6 genders, God is non-binary, Graham Plattner, who we talked about. You got Grandpa Bernie Sanders, the communist socialist, and Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and the squad, and no leadership that would dare challenge the real brain trust of the party. That's just not you. You're more of a traditional Democrat. I don't know. I would imagine you might be feeling more out of place than ever before. Am I wrong about that?
Well, what I will say is that the Democratic Party, we all want to talk about flipping seats. Well, I've done that. I have flipped a seat, and I think I just try to be reasonable, and I try to call balls and strikes. And now if we have a candidate with a Nazi tattoo on your chest and you call American heroes that are fighting with the Taliban a dumb MFer, and if you want to smear people and call rural Americans as racist and stupid, and now you have behaved in, the kind of a creeper way on that disgusting website, for anonymous kind of messaging that really has no way of verifying, what their ages are and who you really are engaging in that. So that's here we are. I'll never defend that, but I will call it what is honest. And, I think we should make the appropriate decision. And, I'm never going to defend that. And now people say, well, I'm sure he's not a saint. It's like, yeah, definitely. He's definitely not a saint. Clearly he has an entire history of saying the most abhorrent things. So that's here as a Democrat. That's the last time we really got all in on a guy that was sending vulgar and inappropriate and sexual kinds of things, that was Swalwell. So I feel like we've been warned. And a guy that just a couple months ago said, oh, there's no more scandals. And here we are now. And now, oh, no, now we don't have any more now. Well, clearly he lied back then. So he's been dishonest through the entire thing. Yeah. Please, he stopped doing interviews, defend and explain. What did you do for 10 days, an entire decade, on a website that was well established, that has, a lot of younger people on that with no ability to verify who's on it. Show the messages. You guys can talk about your recipes or about, the Red Sox,
yeah,
or whatever, or like just shut us up and show these messages. But otherwise, a guy that seems to be just dropping pics and having these kinds of things as a married guy just less than a year ago.
Well, there's a challenge. Graham Plattner, do you take John Fetterman up on that?
Yeah, let's have the conversation. Absolutely. I will wear suits. He has a problem with how I dress. So now, you can show, you can provide all of those messages for a dozen women that you were doing less than a year ago, on Kick, and you and your towel.
Crazy.
Hey, P. Hustle didn't invite me to talk to him or meet him yesterday.
Yeah. All right, Senator Fetterman, thank you as always. Appreciate your time. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.